ancient times, even before the first humans settled on the continents of Tyria or Elona, there were those that appeared in a continent named Kantha. Where they came from is not known, and has been long forgotten. Maybe only the gods know the answer to that nowadays. To the west they settled, in clans all over the Qingji island, and in the northwestern part of the mainland. Though they wouldn't be alone for long. Two tribes arrived the continent, the Luxons and the Kurzicks. Their origins, well, they are unknown either. Allegedly, because of the growing populace of the Luxons and the Kurzicks, the Kanthans united under the flag of a man by the name of Kain, although other records claim that the gods themselves ordered Kain to unite the clans into a single empire. Kain took the name Kantha and declared himself the first Lord Emperor, thus forming the Empire of the Dragon. Ran the year 0, the beginning of times according to the Kanthan calendar. In the year 48 of the Kanthan calendar, when Yanso, son to Kantha, was the emperor, he sought to extinguish what he called the Luxon uprising, ending with the slaughter of hundreds of Luxons. Tired of this, the Luxon clans united as a single faction, in an attempt to separate themselves from Yanzo's empire. Unfortunately, this fight proved unsuccessful, and the Luxons became a vassal state to the Empire of the Dragon. Laid out the Luxon setting in Canton, I believe we are now ready to delve deeper into the Luxons themselves. The Luxons were a group of seafaring people which thrived on travel and respected strength by a combat above all else. As previously stated, their origins are not known, though some historians believe that the Luxons sailed the Crystal Sea over 1,000 years ago, before it turned into the Crystal Desert. Due to their nomadic nature, the Luxons didn't remain long in the same place. Their settlements had few people and usually only served to rest and gather provisions in order to set sail once again. Still, there were those among them which adopted more sedentary lives. Their complexion was the result of years of sailing under the harsh conditions of the Canton Sea. Their skin was much tanned due to the sun, and they often displayed tattoos on their bodies. Cloth-wise, they embodied draped and loose garments akin to pirates, which they also used to cover their face, likely to hide their identities, but also to protect them from the sun and the strong winds. To face the adversity of sea life, the Luxons used leviathans. As the name implies, these were enormous ships, shaped like fish or crabs, powered by magic and strength of arms. Likely the contact with other people around the world may have helped the Luxons acquire knowledge and technology to develop such majestic structures. On the other hand, their settlement's landscape consisted mostly of wooden structures, resembling tents and huts, which they used for housing, trading, and recreation among others. There could also be found giant-sized crabs and turtles, in which they would build structures on top and around their shells. These simple structures allowed them to move easily from one place to another. Despite the quite advanced engineering, the Luxons didn't settle and raise roots as a nation in a single place. They kept being nomads, and this likely shaped their religious beliefs. Contrary to the Kurzicks, the Luxons weren't as zealous in their faith, and because of their traveling nature, the need to survive and feed their people was always more important than what the gods thought of their deeds. Despite this, they still worshipped the gods, more precisely Balthazar and Granth due to their combative attitude, and Lisa due to her beauty reflected in their architecture. Alongside the human gods of Tyria, the Luxons also prayed to other three deities known as the Three Queens. These demi-goddesses were Alua, Elora and Ione, but not much is known about them. It was the year 1382 of the Canton calendar, and Anxian the Emperor. Through treaties, the Luxons and Kurzicks were more connected to the Empire than they had been for hundreds of years, to the point of declaring peace between each other and allowing their champions to join Emperor on his annual visit to the Harvest Temple. Dubbed the Age of the Dragon by astrologers, it started promisingly. However, tragedy soon came and peace didn't last long. The reason was the Jade Wind, a catastrophic event which turned to stone everything it touched. Two zones were mainly affected, the Jade Sea and the Echovald Forest. Used to travel the seas, the Luxons saw themselves and their ships trapped in a sea of solid jade, which transformed their lives. Unable to trade goods or acquire resources from nearby islands, they had to adapt to a new lifestyle. This led them to start mining the sea in search for precious resources that allowed them to survive or trade for other goods. Strength was now revered more than ever, as the survival of the fittest became of the utmost importance to the clans. At this time, the Luxons were divided in 3 clans, also known as the Luxan Armada: the Turtle Clan, the Serpent Clan, and the Crab Clan. The Turtle Clan was composed by the strongest warriors, possessed the most destructive magic in the Jade Sea, and controlled the enormous sea turtles, which they used to travel and wreak havoc on their enemies. The Crab Clan members excelled at mining and uncovering magically concentrated jade. These were named Reavers, even though the most skilled and successful miners belonged to the Serpent Clan. The Serpent Clan were the engineers. They were the ones responsible for building the Leviathans, and after the Jade Wind, for redesigning them so that the Luxons could use them to travel on land. The biggest of the Leviathans were capable of transporting up to 3 siege turtles, being the biggest of them all the Alcyon. To maintain order and understanding between the 3 clans, the Luxons created a body of authority named the Council of Elders. The council consisted of the leaders of the 3 clans, and they would meet every year in Cavalon, the home settlement to the Luxons in the Jade Sea. The meeting had the purpose of re-evaluate and improve the Luxon laws. These laws would then be followed for the remainder of the year until the next meeting. Another event that happened every year was the Convocation. This event consisted in a fight to death between the champions of the 3 clans. The victorious clan would be awarded the Spear of Archimedes until the next Convocation, along with the honor to slay the Kraken Zu-Hanuku. His energy would then be used to resurrect the other clan's fallen champions. From this, we see how the fights between the Luxons were more a display of strength rather than warfare and intent to destroy the opposite clan. Among the Luxons, there were also those who had fallen with the Luxon costumes. These were named outcasts, men and women that once were part of the Luxon society but either became traitors or were corrupted. It is said that those that were corrupted dug too deep into the Jade Sea and found the demon Canaxai, becoming corrupted by his influence. Having gone through the Luxon's way of life, I suppose we can now talk about the Luxan-Kurzick conflict. The Luxons and Kurzicks had been waging war for years, a period so long that the origins of their hatred towards one another had somewhat started diluting over time. It is believed that the origin of the Luxon hatred against the Kurzick is the result of the battle that the Luxons lost when trying to secede from the Kanthan Empire. Why is not known, but maybe the Luxons expected the Kurzicks to help them and they never did. Later on, the Luxons marched alongside the Dragon's Empire against the Kurzicks, which only aggravated the conflict between the two. This conflict raged on for hundreds of years, and only during the reign of the Emperor Anxian they shared a time of peace, as the Emperor made the effort of trying to incorporate both states into the Empire. Though it all came to an end when Anxian was slain around 1382. Both Luxon and Kurzick champions were with the Emperor at the time at the Arvas Temple, Archimedes on the Luxon side and Saint Victor on the Kurzicks. The fact that both champions died while fighting the Emperor's assassin didn't help, and only served as an excuse for them to start waging war on each other once again. Some say they couldn't settle on who actually killed the assassin, and it was reason enough for war. With the Jade Wind, new adversities arrived for each faction, and skirmishes were even more frequent as they competed for resources in order to survive. In 1527 of the Canthan calendar, the Luxons and Kurzicks officially declared their acts of war against one another. The difference here may be that they started launching full-on attacks instead of the borderline skirmishes that had been happening for years. However, in 1568 they returned to these skirmishes as Emperor Kisu drew up new treaties with both factions. These skirmishes subsided once again and a time of peace was again enjoyed, when a new threat landed upon Kantha in 1582 and forced them to fight it. Nowadays, in 1840, the Canton calendar, the rise of the Elder Dragons cut all contact with Kantha, and not much is known about the Luxons either. All that is known is that around 1637, when Emperor Usoku rose to the throne, he defeated the Luxons and incorporated them into the Empire of the Dragon. What is left of the Luxons? Well, maybe we will find one day. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you on the next Guild Wars Random Lore. Until then, have a good time.